Hello, Screamer, and welcome back to the channel. My name is James, and today I am talking about found footage horror. Now, this has been one of my favorite subgenres of horror since I saw the Blair Witch Project back in 1998. And I think the reason why I like found footage so much is because when I saw my first horror film, which was Nightmare on Elm Street, I was probably about in the second grade. I always told myself, if it was real, the cameraman would be dead too. And found footage kind of took that and just ripped it apart, and that always unsettled me because in found footage, the cameraman usually does die. Now, since that time, I've seen a lot of found footage films, and today I'm giving you my top 10 favorites. Now, as a disclaimer, there are a lot of them that I really enjoy, so creating the top 10 list was pretty difficult. And I'm sure my top 10 list is going to vary from your top 10 list. So in the comments below, let me know what your favorite top 10 are. Now, one thing I will say, I'm only going to put the box art here in the video because anytime that I include clips, I usually get a copyright claim and I really don't want to deal with that. So we're just going to use box art. And finally, after the top 10 list, I am going to give some honorable mentions that didn't quite make it for various reasons, but I do want to talk about them anyway. And coming in at number 10 is Noroy The Curse. This is a Japanese found footage film about a documentary filmmaker who explores seemingly unrelated paranormal events connected by the ancient demon Kogutaba. Now, this one is a slow burn, but is consistently creepy. I enjoyed the visuals, the acting was good, and it just constantly gave you that sense of dread that I look for in a film. Coming in at number 9 is As Above, So Below. This one is about an archaeologist who wants to explore the catacombs under Paris, so she hires a guide and a small crew to go down there. But when they do, they uncover dark secrets which lie in the city of the dead. So this film has great production value, excellent acting, and because it takes place underground in the catacombs, it always gives you this sort of claustrophobic sense, which really adds to the overall suspense of the film. Highly recommend this one if you haven't seen it. Coming in at number 8 is The Taking of Deborah Logan. Now, this is sort of set up, I don't know if it's really like a mockumentary or found footage, but it's kind of a mix. But it's about the journey of an elderly woman's ascent or descent into dementia, which actually becomes something a little more scary. This one also had great production value. The acting was excellent. The storytelling kept you on your toes, and the ending was crazy pants. So if you haven't seen The Taking of Deborah Logan, highly recommend. At number 7, we have Grave Encounters. Now, this came out around the time of the explosion of paranormal shows such as Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures, shows like that. This film follows a group of paranormal investigators who enter into a supposedly haunted asylum. And I have to say, this for me is one of the examples of how found footage is done right. There's something always happening from the very beginning. A lot of times in found footage now, they always seem to wait until the third act to start making the creepy things happen, to give you the jump scares. This one was consistent all the way through. I really enjoyed it. The acting sometimes was kind of goofy and maybe not believable, but overall it did have some really good jump scares. Some of the things looked a little too CGI, but with found footage, sometimes that's just the way it is. But it was still an excellent film and really creepy, and I do recommend it. Now, they also have Grave Encounters 2, which I did enjoy, not as much as the first, but I do recommend that one as well. And I did not realize this, but one of the actors in Grave Encounters 2 is also in one of my favorite shows, Letterkenny. So definitely give that one a look. Both of those are available right now on Shudder. And in at number 6, we have the VHS series, the entire series, with the exception of 94, because that one just came out. I'm planning on doing a full review of that for the Scream Stream podcast, which you can check out at anchor.fm/ScreamStream. This series of films is a combination of two of my favorite styles of filmmaking, found footage and anthologies. Now, I just want to focus on the first VHS here. The wraparound story was really well done and carried you from segment to segment perfectly. Each one was integrated very nicely into the wraparound story, which in it of itself was pretty cool. The acting in each segment was great. All the segments in this film were just spot on. My favorite is the siren, which they did actually make a full feature film. I believe that's on Amazon Prime. I believe when I watched it, it was on Amazon Prime. But I do recommend that film as well. It's called Siren. The VHS segments were all created by independent filmmakers, horror filmmakers, who have all gone on to do several excellent features. Adam Wingard, I think, is probably my favorite filmmaker from that bunch. He did You're Next, and he also did The Visitor, I believe. I believe it was called The Visitor. Great filmmaker. I will say this, now that I've got the first one out of the way, all three of the films so far have been really, really good. I enjoyed all of these. All the segments are great. They all have really good production values. Even though they're independently made, the visual effects are great. The special effects are great. Acting is really good. The writing, highly recommend you check out the VHS series of found footage films, because like I said, not only are they found footage, but they are also anthologies, which I really, really love. Great storytelling from all three of those films. And VHS 94, I am going to do a review, as I mentioned, on the next episode of Scream Stream, so that'll be out next week. And number 5 on my list is The Houses October Built 1 and 2. I do recommend watching these both back to back. There is some excellent storytelling here. The acting is great. This series is about a group of thrill seekers who travel across the country and look for the very best haunted houses, or the scariest haunted houses, the most extreme. And they stumble upon one which they probably wish they hadn't. This is one of the creepiest found footage films, because there are things in there that could actually happen. It's not really paranormal. Everything is based in reality, which I think makes it that much scarier. So definitely check out The Houses October Built 1 and 2. And then coming in at number 4 is Rec, R-E-C. This is a Spanish found footage film. If you haven't seen this one, again, highly, highly recommend it. This one is kind of I don't know if I want to spoil it. It's kind of okay. So it's kind of a zombie story, but next level zombie storytelling. It's not the same old cliches. It takes place in an apartment building, which adds to that claustrophobic feel, which creates a lot of tension, a lot of suspense. Most of it is shot with night vision cameras, so that limited view, or the limited field of view, again adds to that claustrophobic feeling. You don't know what's around you. The scares are excellent. It's got some really good jump scares, some really good tension building scares. Just an all around excellent film. Please go and check that out if you haven't. I didn't include the rest of them because not all of them were found footage. I believe 1 or 2 of those were actually third person narrative films. But definitely check out the first one. If you like it, I do recommend that you check out the rest of them. All right. And coming in at number 3 is the Hellhouse LLC series. There are 3 films right now. There's also a director's cut of the first one, which is available on Tubi. I haven't watched that one yet. It is in my queue to watch. Probably watch that maybe this week or next week. This, I think, is another prime example of how found footage should be done. Starting from the very beginning, you have well, not the very beginning, but at least by the time the second act starts, we have all the creepy stuff start to happen, a few jump scares. There's some really nice tension building scares, those slow sort of effect, those suspenseful moments, I guess. I also enjoyed the way that all 3 films kind of build on each other. They're not really standalone. I suggest you really watch the first one before you watch the other 2. Some films you don't have to do that. For example, the VHS series, you don't have to do that. But with this one, I do recommend that you watch them in order. They are really good. The acting is really good. In the third film, some of the acting was not quite as good. That's like a minor complaint. Still the acting was decent in the third one, but definitely check out the first one. It's about a group who want to set up an extreme haunt, and things start to go wrong because the haunt is set up in a haunted hotel. There's a lot of haunts in that sentence. That's why you should check out the film. And coming in at number 2, the Paranormal Activity series. I really enjoyed the entire series. One thing I like about these films, definitely the great acting, excellent production value, the visual effects, the special effects are really good. I also enjoy the way that they incorporated the cameras into the storytelling and not just use them as a way to tell a story. The cameras are there for a reason, a believable reason. So it's not just, hey, I'm going to set up these cameras and a lot of stuff is going to happen. It's not like that at all. I like the clever use of the cameras within the story. The other thing that I appreciate is that every film ties in together, and I think they do it in a really good way. And then finally, my number 1 favorite found footage film is, of course, the Blair Witch Project from 1998. This was the film that completely destroyed my whole security blanket of, if it was real, the cameraman would be dead too, because the cameraman dies. Small spoiler alert. This film for me was shot in such a way that it truly scared me. I was about 20 when this came out, and when I first saw it, I thought it was real. I thought this was a documentary. This was something that really happened. Of course, not long after that, I found out it was indeed fake. But then that just kind of blew my mind even more, that something could be filmed so real. And I think what really drove that was the fact that the directors just gave the actors subtle cues, things, just kind of beat notes, and they improvised pretty much the entire film. I really enjoyed that. I thought it was great. The scares were really good. It was super tense. This is one that I absolutely 100% recommend. I did watch the sequels. I enjoyed all the sequels, actually. A lot of people didn't like the second one because it took a third-person narrative. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. And then I also liked the one that came out a couple years ago, 2018, I believe, just called The Blair Witch. I enjoyed that one as well. It wasn't as good, but I think it was still an enjoyable watch. And that is it for my top 10. Now, I do want to give a couple honorable mentions here, starting with the St. Francisville Experiment. Now, this one came out in 2000. When I saw this film, this is the one that kind of got me thinking, okay, found footage could be a real subgenre and not just a knockoff of the Blair Witch Project. While it wasn't as good, like some of the acting wasn't that great, I still enjoyed the story. I liked the setup. There were some typical tropes. You have like your gross out moments there. You have like some of your typical jump scares. But I think for me, it really set the stage in my mind that this is a genre that I'm really going to enjoy, because I actually thought this was pretty scary. Now, I will say that I'm going to do another video, a separate video on St. Francisville Experiment, because there are some other things that I do want to talk about regarding the film, where it was shot, the stories that it's based on. I actually really enjoyed this one. I guess the only reason why I didn't make it on my top 10 list was because it's not, the quality isn't as good as the rest of them. I mean, it's pretty low budget, but I do think it deserves an honorable mention just because of the fact, like I said, it really showed me that found footage can be its own subgenre. And then next up, Digging Up the Marrow. This is a mockumentary by Adam Green, who also made the Hatchet franchise. He also did Frozen. He's a really good horror director. He does a podcast called Movie Crypt. Definitely check that out. This is basically, he plays a documentary filmmaker, and he's doing a documentary about these whole monster drawings because he's really interested in what kind of inspired them. And he meets a man who claims that the monsters are in fact real. and it just goes downhill for him from there. This is a really good film. The reason why I didn't make it on my list is because it is set up as a documentary rather than found footage. And then next up we have the Poughkeepsie tapes. Now this again is set up as a mockumentary, which is why I didn't make it on my list. But it is one of the creepiest and most disturbing mockumentaries I've seen. It is excellent. The acting is great. It is very believable. I highly recommend that you watch it. I don't want to give a whole lot away, but this was made in 2007, I believe, and didn't actually get a distribution until 2017. You can go and look up why. It's a pretty interesting story behind all that, but at least watch the movie first. Definitely recommend it. It just hit Shudder this week, so you can go and check it out. And that's all I have for this video. I know there's a whole lot of found footage films out there. There are a lot that I really want to talk about, so I think what I'm going to do is make a separate video talking about maybe not obscure found footage, but lesser known found footage films that I enjoy, that you might enjoy as well. Because like I said, this is one of my favorite subgenres and there is a lot to cover here. So I will probably do a separate video. Look for that in the coming weeks. And again, let me know in the comments below what your favorite found footage films are and give me your top 10. If you liked the video, click that like button. If you want to see more content like this, please consider becoming a subscriber. If you want to keep up with me outside of YouTube and the podcast, you can check me out over at Twitter and TikTok, scream_stream. You can follow me on Instagram at screamstream. And if you want to listen to my audio podcast called Screamstream, go head over to anchor.fm/screamstream. Until next time, I'm James Gass saying, if it was real, the cameraman would be dead too. Unless it's found footage. Good night.